Obviously, we live in extremely challenging times, the human rights violation on a massive, incredible scale. The civilians had to face in Iran a government going against its own population, against its own youth. And on the other hand, the threats against Israel, the neighboring countries. And at the same moment, we have an attack on international law in general. And therefore, the Secretary General of the United Nations and myself as a president called for de-escalation in this kind of situation because other countries being dragged into this war now. Again, we see civilians dying, and we need in this time a common understanding that the negotiation table is the place where we have to solve the difficulties and the disputes, because in a further escalation in the Middle East, everybody will suffer.
Sitting where you are with the role that you have, do you think the US and Israel are acting within international legal norms here?
As President of the General Assembly, it's my job to uphold the Charter and the international law. And as I said, the situation in Iran has been horrible. All these killings, the targeted killings, shooting women, shooting children in their face. This means upholding international law and making clear that human rights obligations are obligations for everyone. The same comes in a situation where you say we use military force. There are rules for the united family, for the international family, meaning that you cannot take unilateral action. And if there's a situation where member states argue that there's a threat to security for themselves or for others, there's a place where you should bring it, and this is the Security Council. We have seen that in the past as well, that we had massive human rights violation, and members trying at least to bring it to the Security Council, to have discussions in the past, for example, like the responsibility to protect if human rights protection and vetoes in Security Council would clash. But taking unilateral action is not in line with international law, and this is why the SG and myself make clear that every country has to obey to international law. This counts for the United States, for Israel, and for Iran altogether.
Now, your report today details how women and girls and children in general are disproportionately impacted by conflict. Are you satisfied by what the US has said about the strike on a school in Iran, which appears at this point to have left a death toll of at least 160, most of them children?
My role is to defend international law and not to comment on single events. It's crystal clear that also in humanitarian law, civilian places have a protection, including hospitals, including schools. This is also in war situation, that to uphold the protection of civilians. And this is why, as I said before, it is so important to come to the negotiation table, that not more civilians are being dragged into this situation.
Are you concerned about women and girls in Iran right now, given the past track record of how they've been treated?
For sure. And in my previous role, I brought into the Human Rights Council the fact-finding mission for the violations against civilians, especially women in Iran. But this underlines again that it's not that international law is ceaseless, but it would need member states to engage in these processes, also in the Human Rights Council, to uphold human rights violations from the beginning on, to act on this. We see it also in Afghanistan. I mean, we have incredible violations of women's rights, and hardly anybody is speaking about it anymore. We do have conventions like conventions against the elimination and discrimination against women. You can bring countries, member states to court, but then other member states have to engage. Also, the Security Council has to engage way earlier when faced with human rights violation. And we see all around the world, because you addressed women especially, that women and girls are suffering twice. They are suffering like anybody else, like men, like boys, from direct targeting. But we see, for example, in Sudan and so many other cases, that all these kind of war always go over the body of women, with rape and sexual abuse as a method of war. And therefore, especially for women and girls, these times are more dangerous than ever.
And you said that nations aren't talking about this as they have done in the past. I mean, looking at that report today, just to pick out one sentence, it says 54% of countries don't have any consent-based legal definition of rape, and 72% allow child marriage in all or some circumstances.
Yes, so obviously, as we are also ahead of the International Women's Day is not only once a year. We have to stand up and fight for women's rights every day. And we even see backlashes. We see countries, for example, like Iraq, where they had laws in place forbidding child marriage. And now there's a backlash, lowering the age again. And we have to address these kind of human rights violations. And also, if I may say so, for journalists to not have kind of sugarcoating about things happening. So if you are raping a 13-year-old girl, this is child abuse, be it in a war conflict zone, or be it in a situation which we are now addressing with regard to the Epstein files. There are no young women. If women are under 18, they are teenagers, they are girls, they are children, and they are protected by international law and by the Convention for the Rights of Children. And I believe that is very important in these times, that we are not getting used to the violations of human rights treaties, but that we are addressing every case.